Hi everyone, and welcome to another bimco Bytes. Today we're continuing our journey with generative AI and Stable Diffusion, and we're going to be looking at workflows to turn a sketch into a render. We'll be looking at how to prepare your sketch. We're going to look at the ControlNet extension, which is what we'll be using, and the settings with that. And we're going to look at creating an exterior and an interior render. So the first thing we want to do is just prepare our sketch. So this could be a hand sketch that you've done on paper. And what you want to do is you want to photocopy it, or rather take a photo of it using your phone, or scan it through your photocopier to digitally reproduce the image, and then use a photo editing software like Photoshop, or I'm just using the out-of-the-box Photos app within the operating system just to make some simple changes. So I'm going to show you how to do it in Photos, but obviously in Photoshop and other programs, the tools and buttons might be a little bit different. But what I basically want to do is I just want to make sure that I'm cropping the image appropriately. We're just tightening this side over here. All right, then I'm just going to apply some adjustments. And what I want to do here is I want to increase the brightness as possible so that the paper turns white. And I want to reduce the saturation, so I want to make sure that there's no other colors there. So I want to make sure that's black and white. And maybe I might bump up the, or maybe turn down the contrast to try and get the blacks as dark as possible. Playing with the shadows there. Maybe I'll look at turning the highlights up and down. Okay, it doesn't seem to make much of a difference. Okay, this should be sufficient for now. And what you want to do is you want to save this somewhere, as that's what you're going to use in the application. I'm just going to close this and not save it for now. All right. So if you haven't seen the video on Stable Diffusion, it's up on our knowledge base. I highly recommend you go and watch that first before watching this video. Otherwise, a lot of it won't make sense. Well, in that video, we covered the interface and the basics of how to get started. So if you are familiar, you'll recognize that this interface is what we use to interact with Stable Diffusion, and the ControlNet extension is what we need. We won't go through how to install it here. Refer to our knowledge base for installation instructions. When you get to the interface, you'll notice that the ControlNet tab here has been collapsed. So you just click it to open it up. You'll notice that there's a whole different section here to the interface. What we want to do is first drag our image onto the little image handler there. So you can see there's my sketch that I processed earlier. And I'm going to tick enable to enable the ControlNet module. And I'm also going to click allow preview. You'll notice that a little preview section for the preprocessor opens up here to the right. So while we're talking about that, I'm going to come down to this section here, and you'll notice two little drop downs here, one for preprocessor and one for model. For simplicity, we're just going to come down and click on Scribble Xdog. And for the model, we're also going to click on the corresponding model Scribble. You can try some others in your own time, but I found that this is the one that works best with hand sketches. Let's go and hit the Run Preprocessor button to see what happens. So you'll notice here that we'll get a negative image of what our sketch was. And this is what Stable Diffusion will use as additional data to generate images. Walking through the rest of the interface, you'll notice here that we've got the control weight button over here. And this determines how much influence the input image, our sketch that is, should have compared to the text prompt. So the lower the value, then the more that the text prompt is followed. The higher this value, the more that the sketch is followed. Okay, let's go and have a look at how this works and generates an image. So I'm going to change the dimensions of my image or my output to be 768, just so that the ratio is approximately the same to what my input is. And I'm going to just make sure that I've got Scribble Xdog as my preprocessor. And you'll notice up here, I've got as my Stable Diffusion checkpoint, the Architectural Realmix version 1.1. They recently released an update. Okay, so now let's go and insert our prompt. I'm going to say I would like, from my sketch, a watercolor painting of a commercial tower with podium. Let's start off with that. And we're just going to click generate over here. So now it's taking our text prompt and it's also taking the image that we've provided as input, and it's going to give us an image. So we'll see what it gives us in the first roll. Nearly finished. Okay, so there's our image. Now I'm going to flick back and forth just to show you how similar it is to our initial sketch. So there was our sketch, and there's our produced image. So not too bad. So you can see it's got the composition is the exact same. It's picked up on this little portal here that I've drawn on this main building on the corner. It's even got this additional building here that's adjacent to it. It's got the sidewalk, and it's filled it with grass in this case. And it's even got the shape of the opposing buildings here, and it's got taken into consideration all the lines over here. It's even got a person for scale, so that's really helpful. Okay, that's not too bad. That's pretty good. Let's try a different prompt now. So obviously a watercolor or maybe a pencil sketch in your prompt in terms of style might be really helpful for expressing concept images. So when you're just kind of showing things potentially to clients or even just to your team internally, just so that they get a feeling of the project. But what if you want to take it to the next level and you actually want something that's a little bit more realistic? Maybe you might write something like, I want an exterior of a new glass office building with a curved facade, and make sure that it's beautiful. And maybe you want it to be based in somewhere in Melbourne. Okay, let's hit generate. Okay, there's our render. So flicking back and forth. Again, you can see a lot of the composition is exactly the same, and a lot of the building structures are the same as well as our sketch here. You'll notice that it's taken things like this coincident line here, and it's interpreted this box here as a separate building. And that's all part of the fun of trying to interpret and find all the little things and settings that you can change. You'll notice here that on this corner of the building, it is a bit of a curved facade, but perhaps this main building that we're concerned with over here doesn't quite have a curved facade. So maybe what we can do is we can adjust the control weight over here, so back to the setting, and drag it towards the left, so making sure that our prompt has more say or more weight in terms of the render. So let's try 0.7 for now, and let's run it and see if we can get a more of a curved facade on some of our buildings. Okay, maybe a little bit more curved on some of the buildings, but not quite. This one's got, it's a little bit more pronounced, but maybe not quite what we were hoping for. You can start to see if we toggle back and forth that the interpretation of some of these buildings is starting to change slowly. This kind of portal here is now being covered by a black curtain, so it's starting to take more of the prompt a little bit more literally. Let's reduce it further. And we'll just show you just how dramatic, I guess, a change in the control weight can be, and just how much it will start to follow the text prompt and less of the sketch itself. Okay, you can even already start to see from the preview that it's starting to really adhere to the text prompt. So I can already see a curved facade, but we're already starting to lose a little bit of our, in fact, a lot of our input sketch. So let's open this up. So it's definitely a curved facade, but now we're starting to lose our composition and input of our original image. So you can kind of see there's broadly, a left side to the image, and there's also a right side to the image over here, but largely we're starting to lose this kind of perspective heading to a road in the distance. Okay, so have a play with the control weight and try and balance out between the text prompt and the sketch. Okay, let's try an interior. So we've done an exterior now. Let's try an interior. And a little bit of a pro tip here. So we've so far been using a hand sketch to be provided as input. We could actually even provide a 3D from, say, Revit or maybe even Google SketchUp. If you take a screenshot, you can even use that as input. So I'm going to drag that into my image receiver there, and I'm going to hit pre-process over here. So that's the input that Stable Diffusion and ControlNet is going to use. And I'm just going to make sure I'm going to reset my control weight here back to 1, so we're balanced. And I'm just going to reduce our width here just for the sake of time, so the render doesn't take as long. And let's start our prompt by saying we want maybe it's a new apartment with contemporary interiors with light gray fabric couches. So we're getting pretty specific here. And maybe it's overlooking a park in Australia, and we want to have a glass balustrade. Okay, let's go and hit generate. Hopefully it won't take as long as the other ones have been. Yep, so significantly quicker here. Okay, so there's our first pass of it. So let's flick back and forth. So you can see here was the input that we got from Revit and fed into Stable Diffusion ControlNet, and there's the render that it's returned to us. So obviously there's a few funny things going on here. Like we've got a tree here that seems to be, part of the outside, but is also overgrown into our balcony. The balustrade isn't quite glass. There's something funny going on here with the balustrade in terms of the panels there. But largely that's pretty good. Let's try and refine it a bit further, and maybe we want to make sure that on our render, maybe we don't want to see any skyscrapers or buildings. So what we'll do is we'll use our negative prompts. So maybe we'll say, I don't want to see any other buildings. I don't want to see any other skyscrapers. I don't want to see any other apartments. And let's give that a go. Let's see what it gives us. Let's generate. You'll see that it picked up our prompt on the desire for gray fabric couch. That's pretty cool. Okay, so an interesting interpretation here. Our corner apartment has turned partly into joinery over here on the right side, you'll see. But you can see here now we're kind of a bit higher up. There's not as many buildings in the background. Bit of strange behavior going on with the glass balustrade there. You'll see the furniture here, the couches still have that nice gray fabric. And it's popped in a little pot plant there behind our coffee table. Let's go again with one more negative prompt. Maybe we'll say we don't want to see any joinery. We don't want to see any cabinetry. Maybe we don't want to see any, we don't want to see any shelves or any storage, just to make sure getting a nice corner apartment. Let's try that again. So again, because this is generative AI, you can hit generate as many times and it will give you something different. Okay, so not quite maybe what we expected. Let's go and hit generate one more time. See what we get. Again, there's a lot of fine tuning you can do with the negative prompts. And again, the control weight over here to adjust to how you might like it to focus. All right, this is looking a bit better here. You'll notice that we didn't even define explicitly what our pendant should be, but it's picked up on the fact that it's going to be a pendant, and it's got light fixtures on it. All right, so a little bit better there. And nothing too impressive there with the balustrade, but you kind of get the idea. So it's pretty impressive that it picked up the grey fabric on the couch. So just to end, I'm going to do one I prepared earlier, just to show you that you can kind of get nice effects out of Stable Diffusion and ControlNet if you really take the time to refine your prompt. So in this one, I know that my width of the image is going to change back to 768, and the control weight is about 1.55, so I'm giving more preference to the sketch itself. And I've got a particular seed here. So it's 2399, 535, 839. And if you're confused about what the seed is, go and have a look at our regional stable diffusion bimco bytes. And the prompt here is going to be, it's the interior of a new luxury corner apartment with balcony that has glass balustrade. And I want unobstructed panoramic view overlooking a beach. And it's going to be a beach in Australia. And the pendant, I'm going to specify this time, I want a glass light pendant. And for the negative prompt, I'm going to say, I don't want to see reflections on the glass. I don't want to see any neighbors, any neighboring buildings. And yeah, I don't want to see any buildings. So let's see what that gives us. All right, let's hit generate. All right, and there it is, your dream apartment.